Technology moves fast, and now so can you. Discover Polestar, the all-electric performance brand vehicles redefining how we drive. Precision engineering, minimalist design, and software that evolves with you. Experience it at Holden Group in Norwich and Bury St Edmunds, or let us bring the test drive to your door. Proud sponsors of the Cambridge Tech Podcast. Polestar, electric performance, redefined. Discover at holdengroup.co.uk/Polestar. Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
There are a few pieces of news this week, so I'm going to jump straight into it. First of all, we have Arm, who last week announced they have extended their global influence by expanding their compute platform to silicon products in an historic company first. The expansion moves beyond its platform strategy of IP and compute subsystems to now include Arm-designed silicon products, giving partners the broadest set of options to build on Arm and enabling faster innovation across the AI ecosystem. The major move starts with the launch of the Arm AGI CPU, an Arm-designed CPU for AI data centers built to address a rising class of agentic AI workloads. Next, we have Cambridge Biotech Imatrin, which is developing a next-gen antibody therapy to reverse the potentially killer disease amyloidosis. They have raised $86 million in a Series A round. The raise was led by a new backer, Frazier Life Sciences, with participation from F Prime, Oiming Venture Partners, SR1 Capital Management, and founding investors Cambridge Innovation Capital and Cambridge Enterprise Ventures. Next, we have Cambridge inkjet printing technology firm Xaar. They have hoisted revenue in the last year and have high hopes for securing more business across Asia after opening a new facility in China. Revenue from continuing operations climbed to £60.1 million, up from £53.8 million in 2024, which was a 12% at constant currency. Printhead revenue was 22% higher to £43 million, while adjusted profit before tax from continuing operations held pretty steady at £0.8 million. CEO John Mills said, "Early trading in 2026 is in line with expectations. The order book is healthy for this time of year, and the board believes the group is well positioned for further progress both in 2026 and in the longer term." Next, we have Thayer Insights, a Cambridge-based deep tech whose technology is used by global index providers, asset managers, hedge funds and banks, and they have raised $8 million in Series A funding. The round was led by Middle Game Ventures, an early-stage fintech fund with participation from Further Ventures and Unusual Ventures, bringing total funding to date to $14.5 million. And lastly, we've got dates for your diaries, listeners. Cambridge Wide Open Week returns in June. They are sharing the spritz and buzz of the festival with Oxford and London this year for the very first time. The event will therefore take place between the 11th and 19th of June, and we can expect investors, entrepreneurs, academics, policymakers, operators, and the wider biotech and tech bio community to explore the ecosystems and engage directly with participants and ideas driving innovation. So the programme kicks off with curated one-day venture tours starting in Oxford on June the 11th, then London on June the 12th, before returning to Cambridge for the week-long Festival of Innovation between the 15th and the 19th of June. So do head over to cambridgewideopenweek.com for more information. And just as a heads up, Camtech Pod will be on tour during Cambridge Wide Open Day, and certainly on the Wednesday we'll be out in the car with our headline sponsor Holden Polestar, so more on that to follow. And now let's jump into this week's episode where we spoke with Michael Meeks from Collabora.
So Michael, welcome to Cambridge Tech Podcast. It's great to have you with us today. Fantastic to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
So we're going to start, as we always do, finding out a little bit about our guests. So why don't we start with your early years?
I've loved computers from a very young age. I think about 12, my parents got a BBC Micro. They mortgaged everything to buy it and begged, borrowed and stole to get computers generally, learning basic syntax that way. And then I guess I went on to study general engineering at Downing in Cambridge. In about 95, I switched to Linux, which was a very useful time to do it, it turns out. And the reason is this, that I was writing computer games, because that was my passion as a kid, with a stolen compiler on a stolen operating system, and I became a Christian. And it's odd that God puts a finger on something in your life and says, that's a thing. I'm doing plenty of things wrong by that. Anyway, so I switched to Linux. It destroyed my hardware initially as well. So it actually killed my hard disk. But I just got in on the ground floor and met so many extraordinary people doing amazing things with Linux and just caught that extraordinary trajectory that we see now of open source growth or free software growth around that, which is fantastic.
So, Michael, I just have to ask you something, because you talked about you switched to Linux and you became a Christian. And I'm like, wow, that's something very different to normal on the Cambridge Tech podcast. But I did notice when I looked at your LinkedIn profile before the interview that you actually are very open, and you say it's the first thing that you say, and then you say with Collabora as the organisation that you're a Christian and a hacker.
Indeed.
So come on, tell us. This is obviously really personal, but just you're very upfront about it.
Completely. And I think it's really good to talk about such things. I think there's a thing called Foo Camp, and they ask you there to describe yourself in 3 words. And that's quite an interesting intellectual challenge. And having sat in a room with lots of people describing themselves in 3 words, I came up with Christian as the sort of deepest statement of belonging and identity and being rescued. And then husband, family is probably important after that. And then hacker is like my programming. Yeah, it's a kind of edgy word for software engineer, a skilled programmer. That's now completely anachronistic, but I like it. So I use it. So that's it, Christian, husband, hacker.
Yeah, and I think it shapes who you are, doesn't it? I remember going to a Cambridge United Football Club event, and one of the women's teams spoke there, and the first thing she did was said, I'm a Christian, and it really shaped the rest of the conversation. So I just thought it was really interesting. So thank you for sharing that. Then let's talk a little bit about what you did for a job. So you've gone to Downing College, you've started building and creating things. What then happened?
Yeah, one of the exciting things that I should probably not confess to online is that I spent about half time working in my master's, my last year at Cambridge, with a startup called Simian. It was ultimately acquired by Novell and then reacquired multiple times. We bought a Linux distro called SUSE from Germany and just helped to run that. So I was a distinguished engineer at that company for a while. And eventually they got some really good management that discovered that doing office productivity was not really that well aligned with infrastructure software services. And so they very generously spun us out into a small company. So I mortgaged my home. They gave us a small contract to support their customers. I had 6 people and we started the company about 12 years ago now. There's a parent company, Collabora, run by some friends of mine, and made a joint venture, I guess, between Collabora and myself, our family. And so, there's a 50-50 partnership between the parent company and us. But we love to help build one brand. It's great to focus your marketing on that. So we really talk about Collabora and Collabora Office and Collabora Online as our products, just to help those wonderful synergies and great open source companies there with a real mission to drive open source. So unlike many VC-backed companies, we're organic, we're profitable, and we have a mission which is to drive open source. When you give us money, that goes into improving open source and making that work rather than reasonable returns for very risky punts.
So let's unpick that a little bit more then. So open source versus the traditional go-to-market. Why did you choose to do that? And what difference does it make to how you operate?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Let me just take off my enthusiastic community hat about open source and put on my crass business pitch for open source, which would ultimately be that you give things away for free, and that just provides amazing brand recognition and deployment. So we have 100 million or so Docker image downloads of our collaborative editing product, which is not nothing. And many people see the brand, they love it, they use it. It is normal when we go to talk to a customer who's approached us that they say, oh yeah, I'm loving it, I'm using it at home. They've got it on their own server and they're playing with it and they're using it. And so a whole load of that sort of preparation and awareness of the product then sort of short circuits or really accelerates your marketing and sales in a way that, yeah, it's just wonderful. And of course, it's a brilliant way to collaborate with other people and to make the world a better place. So, yeah. I have two hearts on this one.
Yeah, okay. And you're taking on the likes of Microsoft and Google then with what you're actually doing here.
Absolutely. Yes, it's a crazy contrapuntal investment, isn't it? Look at that. But yes, I've been pouring my life into it for so many years. And my team, when SUSE came and said, we're not going to do this anymore, we'd written a lot of blank checks to the community on SUSE's behalf. And we wanted to continue to honor that as much as we could. And yeah, we're now nearly 70 people. And it's great to see that grow from that. And that turned out to be a really good choice. And huge companies have these very high EBITDA targets, and they find it hard to stick, I think, with a single strategic focus for a long time.
So let's come back to the actual tools in a moment. But what I want to do is not leave the open source conversation without talking about digital sovereignty, because we're living in a very different environment at the moment. And actually, there's a degree of we need to disassociate with certain companies and become much more independent. So what are your views on that? And what do you think that we should be doing, both as a country and as business owners?
I'm a massive globalist. Our team is geographically distributed all over the world. We love people from all kinds of cultures and places, but geopolitical risk is back with a vengeance. And so the real question that we have is, how can you get all of the benefit of that worldwide set of people everywhere, and yet also have indigenous software for every country, right? It would do no one any favors if we rewrote Microsoft Office 50 times for different countries. The size of teams and the cost of that is just ridiculous. So I would argue the only way to have true digital sovereignty, which means control of the software and understanding of it and the ability to maintain it and improve it, the only way to do that is to use open source, because then it is for the world. It is both local and a collaboration internationally. And so it's just an amazing emergent effect of the goodness that open source gives you, is just a profound digital sovereignty whilst not surrendering that collaboration and that working across nations and so on. So you have full control and you don't isolate yourself into a little pocket of weirdness. And yeah, of course, Collabora Office provides that for you. And almost inevitably, we have people in your country, partners in your country that can compile the software if you're particularly worried about it, that can make sure there's a real great chain of provenance there. And yeah, that it's sustainable. We use Git, of course, to develop software. So actually, there are copies of the repository everywhere. You could lose whole continents and still have access to the software and be able to sustain and improve it. So that's really cool, I think, as an open source proposition.
So I guess your ideal is actually everyone ditches existing large incumbents and goes open source for that very reason.
So we are laser focused, of course, on growing the business and in making our product so compelling that people want to do it, mandates and geopolitical risk aside, and we're really getting there. The product is getting very lush. And there's lots and lots of things there that really help. So Microsoft obviously have trillions of documents in their own file formats. And I helped to try and standardize. Actually, I was on the committee helping to standardize Microsoft's format at ECMA. And so we interoperate with that really very well. So we can bring all those documents in, and we can also embed our product inside many other people's products. So we're really a component sale. Yeah, we OEM through vast numbers of other people. Anyone that wants a document, wants to automate it, and wants to put that in the cloud and have a real quality solution and not depend on a third party hosted somewhere else, we can provide a component that you run on your premise, embed in your product, ship and bundle easily, can test and be sure that it's not going to break and change randomly, and deploy that yourself with, reasonable pricing as well, trust-based licensing, so on. So it's just a pleasure working with 250 or so partners, embedding in their products, selling in their geographies and so on. It's just really fun.
I think it always helps to provide context if you can walk us through some use cases and some customers.
So again, we love to sell through partners, which is somewhat challenging business model. Initially, it delays sales cycles often because you close the partner and then you enable them and then eventually they sell. But it also gives then a huge scope. So it lets us stay to be more of an engineering team, selling level 3 support and subscription and security updates. And so we sell that then through many different partners. So, for example, with the German government, there's a sort of German government company called Zendis, the Center of Digital Sovereignty, and they're great. They produce a product called Open Desk. And recently, the International Criminal Court was leaned on quite heavily, and opinions differ, but either they were cut off or not cut off, but they became significantly worried about being able to continue with their current Office provider. And so there we have 1,000 seats of people, and we can provide a solution that's sovereign, that they can control, no one can take away. So Another example would be the Dutch university network run by Surfnet. They have around 100,000 people, 36 universities, 70 research institutions, and growing quite significantly every time I look, numbers bigger. And then Strato Ionis, just as a completely random different hosting company there. So you can get either a Nextcloud or Filer, their own file sync and share product, both of them embedding in the same Collabora Online cluster there. And again, very large numbers of users. So that's just a few tastes of customers out there using a Collabora Online.
And I guess the fact that you have all of these partners means that they can add their own things. They can add their own, I don't know whether it's sector specific or other tasks in there.
Sure, absolutely. So we provide quite rich scripting APIs. You would be amazed at how little they're used. Often people just want a document. They generate the document, they allow you to tweak it and change it and update fields or maybe do some kind of database email mergey type thing into it. And then they want to print it, generate PDFs, send invoices, and so on. So yeah, that's certainly possible. We do that. I'm just surprised that people don't tend to go very deeply into those things. Although some of our customers build huge government management systems around it and then do really deep integrations. But those tend to be, less common. Mostly people just want to edit documents and share them and collaborate and maybe template them and fill them with data. Bit of workflow sometimes. So documents for signing, hiring flows, this kind of thing. Yeah, very diverse. But I think the thing is, there are two problems here. The product is so big and it's 8 million plus lines of code and it's so feature rich and it's used by such diverse set of partners that it's very then hard to come up with a single story of what we do. So from a marketing team, tear their hair. It's a bit of a pain. But yes, so finding a single rounded, what is your strategy for 5 years' time is hard. And it's just, we're going to get better everywhere. We're going to listen to our customers and our partners, and we're going to improve, fill any gaps, and then innovate for them.
No, that's great. And so my last question before I hand back to Faye is on one of the first examples you just gave. It made me start thinking about security. So what are the kind of security issues and considerations that you need to look at?
Office productivity is particularly interesting because there's basically two ways you can do it. You can run it on the server or on the client or some mix of both. Many people move to the client, so they download your document. The first thing they do is they download the document and then they run Office Suite in JavaScript on your client. This has some advantages. It's quite snappy to edit and interact for small documents. Obviously, once you get large documents, you have all sorts of efficiency problems in the browser. But for small documents, that works nicely. The problem is that many people want to control where the documents go. They don't want them downloaded, they don't want them printed, they don't want copy and pasted. And so if the first thing you do is download the whole document model to the client, that's not great. All your security stuff is then a Band-Aid stuck over the top of this uncontrolled JavaScript thing. And it could be a Perl script downloading it. So we take a different approach. We leave it on the server and we do policy enforcement on the server. And that allows us to do some unique things. If we're going to do copy and paste, we actually have to work hard to get the data from the server to the client. We just don't do that. So no copy paste, very easy. No print. Again, we have to get meta files from the server. Just turn that off. And no download. Again, very easy to turn off. And so we can enforce all that policy there, and we can watermark the pixels that we send to the users. So, it's got your name all over it. You're not getting anything you can get out of the browser. And so that allows us to do awesome things. Let me tell you about one of those. So we have a large car manufacturer, and they have a problem that they want new, exciting car designs that are trendy and up to date and get to market quickly. To do that, they need feedback because their R&D team may well be disconnected from reality. So you need to then share these designs to your sales team, which is vast, distributed, and excited about new things and sharing them with their friends. So how can you square that circle? The answer is that you keep the document on the server, you send pictures of it, and you watermark it with their name and the time and the date and where they are. You can take a photo of the screen, you can screenshot it, but it's got your name all over it. And that's not going to go well for you. And so this then allows them to accelerate the pace of development, get feedback from the field and not leak their information, just have a much more secure and exciting product development cycle.
Fascinating conversation. And I love the fact that it's an alternative to other things that are out there that you can really make work for yourself. So you said you've got 100 million download documents. You've got 70 people now in the team. How have you funded? Have you literally just grown organically?
Yes. So those Docker downloads, each one is a server in theory, but of course, so it could serve many people, but also each one of them could be an update of an existing installation. One inflates, one deflates. Very hard to count our users. That's just one of the open source things. But we also have clients with millions of users. It's quite a significant thing. How do we fund that? Yeah, of course, I mortgaged the home and Collabora put some money in. They were a successful consultancy and excited to get into a product market and see how that works as different from consultancy. And that's just a very different place to be. And then, just slow, steady growth. So we started doing a lot of consultancy ourselves to bootstrap and build a product. And then, we sort of segue to then building this partner-driven sales model. And so I think, it's just organically funded, as I say, profitable. We were very blessed with our original consultancy customers who had some really interesting things to do. And so we worked with AMD and we worked with a company called Cloudon making an iPad product. And all of that work went back into building this wonderful open source asset for everyone to use. It's been amazing, isn't it? Giving away your product and also getting paid and also growing and also making a profit. It's not terribly easy. Obviously, sometimes I wish I could force people to pay money, but that's not the market we're in. And so, people can take our stuff and do silly things with it. And they do that from time to time. And usually they discover that actually coming back to get services and support from the people that really understand it is the right thing to do. Sometimes it's expensive for them to work that out. But
And you may choose or choose not to answer this question. What would you do? Because obviously the ethos of the company and what you're doing is obviously very important to you. What would you do if one of the large incumbents came knocking on your door and said, "We like your business"?
That happens all the time. So anyone who runs a startup will get often large American private equity people banging on the door going, "Do you have this much EBITDA? What's your turnover? Can we buy you and Pac-Man you into some bigger aggregation of small companies?" And I've never really quite understood where the synergy is there. It seems like there are relatively few synergies beyond providing real professional management and great input on how to do that. Maybe it's an exit strategy that some people like, I guess, if their companies are doing that. But the problem with private equity is one thing. VC is another thing. Obviously, they have two options: become a 10x, 100x revenue or die. And they're reasonably, obviously they want you to grow, but dying is also well up for being an option. And in fact, take more risk so that it's more likely to be 100x. And their nightmare is our company, which grows. It's doing actually extremely well with the geopolitical things. I think we doubled our bookings last year, which is a nice way to go. And we expect that trend to continue. But even so, that's not, our goal is to be stable and to be here for a very long time. For our partners, for our customers, most of all for our staff. I don't like firing people. It doesn't fill me with joy. And we have a very conservative approach to growth. And so what do you do when the VC comes knocking? You smile and say thank you. And you do realize this is a very risky, do you really want to compete with Microsoft? Just let us get on with it. We're doing a good job.
I really like the honesty of disliking certain parts of the CEO role. What's leadership been like for you?
Yes, an incredible learning experience, I would say. Obviously, before I started the company, we'd founded a non-profit and grown a whole load of things and be involved with some fantastic leaders in this as a startup. I think Nat Friedman was the CEO of GitHub for a while, and Miguel de Casa and various other people. So just some excellent examples to follow there in terms of trying to inspire people and build a good ethos. But leadership is difficult, isn't it? Look behind you, are people following? So we have something like 1,000 contributors to the non-profit that we founded, me and a group of other people, which is good. So I think we're spoiled by the pent-up interest, I think. And the need is acute in this space that, I don't think I can give myself much credit for that. So, but it's just a pleasure to attract people and build community and get people working together and, then just celebrate what they've done. I think that's just really encouraging. And it's quite difficult when your team is remote. So our team is essentially fully remote. And actually, when you deal with remote people, one of the problems is having people that aren't remote mixed with people who are. If you have an office in one location with 5 people in it, and then everyone else is remote, you rapidly discover these 5 people they communicate more and they talk over a dinner and they make decisions. And that's not great. You really need to be opening those decisions up to everyone and including people globally. And so we've avoided that by just having everyone work remotely and quite some cost to you. Although we do have a base obviously on Cambridge. And actually I think one guy works for me in the office. Actually, there may be a second person. We have an intern there. So we love to go to Hills Road and encourage people to get involved with software engineering as a career. And we offer some internships there just to try and grow in the Cambridge area and just give back a bit.
Actually, I wanted to pick up on that. So you're supporting Hills Road, which is a school for a sixth form college for people who are not familiar with it. But the team also do many other things. You've actually got quite a good high level of pay it forward culture as well.
So in terms of paying it forward, yes, I think some of our staff do help run the robotics club there. Skylar is doing a fantastic job at that. I think we'll probably be moving to Germany shortly for various personal reasons. But yeah, so we try and do what we can. But I like to think that our main contribution is worldwide to being able to download an increasingly good free Office productivity suite and use it and embed it and regain their digital sovereignty. So that's mostly where we go. But I'm excited about computers. Are just fascinating. And I think as an older person, we've had the privilege of seeing it grow from something very small to something really quite big. And I think when you arrive in this big world of all sorts of crazy things going on, it's perhaps nice to hear some of the stories of how it used to be and how it evolved and why it is like it is, which is, not necessarily obvious. I think software comes to reflect the teams that it's built by, and hardware similarly too, no doubt. And so there are lots of things that are obvious or are competed away and made more efficient, but there are other things that are just slightly random and nice to understand.
So I guess the obvious call to action then is for people to go to the website and download the product.
But go and have a play. We have a thing called Collabora Office, which we've announced recently, which you can actually try by yourself. It doesn't need a server or a cloud thing. You can just run it on your desktop. So just go to the App Store, grab Collabora Office, download it, have a play, and see what UI we can deliver, both as a desktop app, but also deployed through the browser, a full feature product there, and see how you can use that, what you could do with it. And we'd love to talk. We run a great partnership program that gives wonderful margin to our partners compared with almost everyone else. And we just love to grow that business together. So give me a call.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Michael. It's been great. And I think you're the first person that has ever used the word lush on the podcast. So that's a lovely tick box for you.
Great. So good to be here. Thanks so much, Faye.
Today's show was produced by Joe Donaghy of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It'll really help others discover the show.
Now you can get directly involved with the show. Leave us up to 60 seconds of audio by visiting cambridgetechpodcast.com on your computer or phone and click Call the Show from the menu. Send us your news items, events to promote, leave us feedback or suggest a guest.